like it's so easy to make it so complicated. And I've actually been really actively working to do the opposite in my business this year. You guys know I've been through some big team transitions, and one of the biggest parts of that transition is I felt like we had over systematized our business a bit, where things felt like they were running almost like too rigidly, like there wasn't as much room to like flow within things. And so I would say over the last 6 months or so, I've really gotten back to being like, okay, I want a rhythm, I want a ritual, I want flow. What does it look like to have all of that? And what I have found in having all of that is it looks like making it fucking easy. It looks like doing easy things. It looks like having really easy processes set up. Um, and it doesn't look like the complication that I think that we sometimes bring to things. I think especially as our business gets bigger and bigger, there's such a temptation to complicate it. Like I know one of the shifts that I had made, y'all know about, is like having a full-time person, which I still do. But I feel like in having more full-time team support and whatever, it felt like um, almost like a pressure to have more systems, have even more um, like I'm trying to even think of a way to say it, but it's like I don't want to like blame that person, but I do think that like maybe my directions got misunderstood in terms of like, let's have processes. We ended up with like all of this complication that really got intense. And so I've been just working on getting back to like, what are my rhythms? What are my rituals? What actually feels good to me? What moves the business forward without stressing me out? I have a toddler. I have a 3-year-old. I also have, I think a lot of you know this, but I have a husband that travels like all the fucking time for work. Um, uh, do you like how I said that? In a aggressive way, but it really does feel like that lately. Like he has gotten a lot. And so I just every week I don't have the same capacity. I don't have the same flexibility. Like that changes for me week to week to week right now. Wouldn't say that's like the most ideal situation of all situations, if you know what I mean. But it also isn't changing. And it's not something I actively want to change, Like it's everything has its trade-offs. Like having having him travel is like really great for our family in many ways. Having him have a job he loves is really great in many ways. And in other ways, like it certainly adds this element to our life and our family where things are kind of always shifting and changing. And so that I think was starting to feel like such a disconnect for me. Yeah, Christina, she said I work better with support, but also flow. Exactly. Like that was starting to feel like a disconnect for me where it was like, hey, my stuff's like in flux, stuff being like capacity, energy, give a fuck factor is always like in flux. And so then having so much rigidity and what we were doing was like not matching that at all. And I was feeling more like I was somehow like um, not making it easier on everyone else. And I really had to snap out of that and be like, everyone's job is to make it easier on me, actually. Um, like my capacity gets to shift. I get to change. I get to have my own rhythm and flow and all of those things. And so that's really what I've been working on so much is how do I build this into my business? How do I make this feel good for me? How do I set myself up in a way that actually caters to the life I have instead of like actively works against it? And, I have a just turned 3-year-old. And so I do think that that changes, especially in those first few years as like your child changes so much, your schedule with them changes so much. Like you need different things at different times, obviously. But what I know I really need in this season is a lot more flow, a lot more like, um, adaptability. Like I kind of try to think of the business like, it's like always moving and like stretching or shrinking. And I don't mean shrinking as in like our income. I mean like how much we get done in any one week, right? It's like this or this or this kind of thing. Um, but it's always within this certain context. So like we have like this outside structure, but within it, we're like doing this a lot. I know that sounds weird, but it's like how my brain thinks about it. Um, so as long as we're getting this done and we're achieving this structure, it's okay if we move a lot within that. And I feel like that is really important to say. Yeah, Christina says how much they need you changes from week to week. So much, right? And at this stage too, like obviously, I mean, he just turned 3. Obviously, it's better than when he was 9 months old in terms of like how fast things are changing, but like it changes so much. Like even like appointments or whatever. I feel like I've had so many appointments recently because, excuse me, I shared this on Instagram. I think I shared it in here too. Y'all give me some really good feedback, but I got diagnosed with POTS, and it's like even just like the amount of appointments that went into getting diagnosed with that and stuff like that. It's like so much. And then you have appointments for your child. And so anyway, we have to stop pretending as women, I think, that like shit does not fluctuate or doesn't change, or that we somehow should be able to overcome that or something. And I think we have to start being like, nope, I just have rituals, systems, rhythms, processes in place that protects me against that, that supports me against that. I mean, you guys know my word of the year is main character energy. And that's like what I've really been trying to bring to the business is like, I'm the main character. What I need is the most important. What I want is the most important. What feels good to me is the most important. And just like really making that a big fucking deal, because I feel like last year I did less of that, I would say. I don't even think like actively meaning to or realizing it. I think I just was like more in that pattern, um, that we get into of being like, oh, well, it's, I have a new team and I need to like adjust to them and I need to make it easy and I need to da da da. And now I'm like, I don't know. That didn't work. That didn't serve us. That's not it. So anyway, I want to like share a lot about that today, but I just wanted to like name that up front because I think it's really important to say that. Um, okay, so there are a few things that I do really regularly that I'll talk about, but what I want to talk about the most at first, and that's kind of why I like set the stage there, is what I get done week to week in the business changes quite a bit right now. Some weeks I put out 5 pieces of content, like, right, like I'll do 1 carousel and 3 reel or 4 reels or something. Other weeks I do like 2 pieces of content. Some weeks I'm on stories every single day. Some weeks I'm like, oh, I didn't even get on stories this week. And the old version of me would not have liked that. So let's just name that. There's a past version of me that would have been like, no, like you need to like say your agreement and hit it. You need to blah, blah, blah. And the truth is that works for me at a certain time and it doesn't work for me anymore. But I do think that that can change and shift in business. And so this may or may not like resonate with for you where you stand. Like you might be in a season where you're like, nope, I always do it 3 times a week, no matter what. But what I was finding and having that kind of pressure is that the results weren't matching up with it, especially in my business, right? We're waitlist based. We don't have a lot of spots open up, et cetera. So the difference between 4 stories a week and 2 stories a week was negligible. But the difference in my life in terms of having that flexibility was not negligible at all. Right. It was significant. Like it's so different to be like, oh yeah, I can do 2 or 4 this week. It doesn't matter. Like that doesn't impact my results, which by the way is a mindset thing too. And so I vary on this a lot right now. Like I think if you probably, I actually meant to pull this, but I think I can kind of remember, but I think if you look over the last few weeks, like, last week, I think I posted a lot. I was feeling really good. The week before that was like my birthday. It's when I got my POTS thing. I posted very little. The week before that, I think I actually posted very little too, because I wasn't feeling that well then, hence leading to all of that. And it's fucking fine. Like, could I have grown more in that time if I was posting more? Sure. Objectively, like the more I posted, the more chances I would have to ever reached it up. But in terms of like actual results in my business, again, this is my business, my model. I don't see that week to week fluctuation, or for a lot of people, making the biggest difference ever. What I see making the difference is feeling okay enough about it that you can bounce back from that the next week, that you're like, oh, that's totally fine. Like where I see people get themselves all fucked up in the head is that last week they posted twice. And so they think it means they're a failure. And they now develop this horrible relationship with content and posting. And they think social media sucks and they think it's super hard and blah, 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 blah. Instead of being like, I can post 2 times last week and 5 times this week and none of it means shit. Like, except that I'm still showing up, except that I'm proud of who I am, except that when I put out content, I'm going to make sure it feels good to me and it's aligned to me and I feel proud of it. Like that is what I've really been focused on. And so letting that fluctuation happen without attaching a lot of meaning to it, I think is important. And again, I want to share, like I'm at a place in my business where I think I can do that, where there would have been an earlier version of me who had less flexibility, probably both in terms of like what I would give myself, but also in terms of like how it would impact my results. So I'm not saying this is right for everyone. You have to figure out your version of that. But you have to really know, like, what are your trade-offs? Like, what are you weighing? Like, do those extra 2 posts burn you the fuck out and make you hate things? Then I promise they're not worth it. You know what I mean? Do those extra 2 posts like send you on a spiral and make you work like way later than you meant to and blah blah blah? Like it's not worth it. And you can have all the systems set up in the world in your business, but if like what our system looks like right now is like I have a thing that's like post a reel today, and if I don't, I just hit delete. You know what? Like it's no big deal. And I think that sometimes we get so rigid and all of that, where it's like, well, the team is waiting on you to do this and do this and do this and blah 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 blah. And it's like, no, nobody needs to have any urgency that I, as the CEO, don't have. I think that's another really important thing about the rhythms in your business. Not that like someone shouldn't have urgency in their tasks and their job, but they should not be translating that to you or putting that on you. Like you get to decide what your priorities are and what your urgency is. That doesn't mean if you made an agreement with your team, you don't show up for it or you don't communicate about it. But it means that like nobody gets to put that like rushed energy on you but you. I have a mug that I love. It has a little slop on it and it says, "Don't fucking rush me." And I feel like that's a lot of my energy in this is like, I will do it if I feel like I have the capacity and energy and I'm going to honor that. I'm someone that has a lot of capacity. So typically that's easy. I also am someone who has a tendency to try to push beyond that. And so I have to watch myself and be like, nope, no one gets to decide that but me. No one knows what my capacity is but me. So right now, what that looks like. Oh, what did Elisa say? She said, I love this as women and especially as coaches or psychologists, we're so trained to look at what everyone else needs. And it's not easy to shift that. So love that for you. Thank you. Such Taurus energy. I know it really is. I feel like I'm really like in it with my Taurus energy and Taurus season. So what was I going to share? Okay, so here's what my like content rhythm looks like right now. This varies greatly. Oh, again, let's set the stage. But what I typically do is on Fridays, I will think about like what are my hooks for the next week. So like I'll just use the example of the one I did today. I saw this really funny reel that was like taking myself home because I started talking about patriarchy in a situation where I should have stuck to small talk. And I was like, oh my God, I love that reel. That's fucking hysterical. I saved it and I like made that, like an idea for one of my hooks this week with giving them credit, just to be clear. But so I made that one of my things for this week. And so on Friday, I try to go through that for the next week. What happens, depending, is that I'll either have a ton of ideas. And so I just kind of like get them all down. Maybe I have 7. Or maybe I don't have that many. Maybe I only have 2. And I'm like, okay, that's good enough for now. Like I try to hold on to whatever comes to me Friday and be like, that is good enough. Right. Heather said this is very affirming. What makes the difference is the constancy of it over time versus being so stuck rigid about meeting a set agreement. Exactly. Doing what you say you'll do is important and being flexible is necessary. Sometimes as the owner Taurus too. Yes. Apparently it's all of our bull energy, right? Where like sometimes we can like push through. But then if you don't see the outcome of that being helpful, like at a certain point, you got to go like, hey, no. And again, you have to communicate with your team about it too, as you're saying. It's not like, hey, I just do whatever I want and I don't take you into consideration. It's like, I do what I want, but I'll always communicate with you about that. Hey, Liz, good to see you. Okay, so then I take those hooks, and on Monday, I have like time blocked out in my calendar and I'll try to like get some of it ready. Like, do I need B-roll? Do I need to pull something? I'll make some reels drafts. I'll start writing some captions, and I just do whatever I can in that chunk of time that I have. Sometimes I have something else come up, like I had a doctor's appointment or my kiddo needed me or whatever. And I just go with whatever I did in that time. Like it's a chunk of time on my calendar, and whatever happens, happens is sort of my vibe. And so again, that translates to sometimes getting a lot out in a week and sometimes less. It translates to fluctuation in that. But what it does for me is it makes me feel like, okay, I know I have a rhythm and I know I have space for that. But I also don't have to be so intense about that space that I pretend like nothing else could ever come up. Um, or like I would never have to take an appointment at that time, or my kid would never need me, or whatever. And so having that rhythm has been really helpful for me. Now, sometimes what happens, bless my team. Hi Denise, so good to see you. Sometimes what happens is then I'll get a totally fucking different idea. I do this with for carousels a lot. This happens to me because I'll have a conversation with a client, like because I'm on client calls so often. A lot of this will like hit me. Like I'll have a conversation, I'll be like, oh, I want to write about that like right now. And I'll like, and it'll just like flow out of me. And then I'll pass it to my team and be like, hey, can you make this a carousel? I would like to post it tomorrow. So it doesn't mean I'm never doing anything last minute, but at the same time, like the flow is there for both. I have a rhythm for when I'm not feeling inspired, which is like Friday, I look up shit, I write down my hooks, blah, blah, blah. Monday, I have time to record and prep. But I also have a team that knows, hey, on Tuesday, Lacey might have a call and then have this totally other idea, and we're going to try to pivot with her. And I've made that really like clear to them of like, nobody has to like bust their ass last minute on something that's like my problem. But at the same time, like, you should expect that sometimes I'm going to need whatever you to throw a carousel together for me in 20 minutes of your day. And like, that's part of it too. Now, again, keep in mind, I have someone full time, so that exchange makes sense. But that's kind of how I do it. Like, I have the rhythm and system for all the time. And then I have the ability to flex in it when I'm feeling inspired. And I feel like for me, that's been the happy medium in my business almost always is like having both. I think where it gets really bad is when it's one way or the other. When I decided to switch teams, it was starting to feel so rigid. It was starting to feel like I didn't have the space to be like, hey, I want to throw this out tomorrow. Or like, hey, like I had this other idea, switching gears. But conversely, you can't have none of that either, because if you try to go off of solely inspiration constantly all the time, that can burn you out too. And it can also make it feel really hard, where I feel like a lot of people I see get into spirals around that. They're like, oh, I'm not feeling as inspired as I should, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, well, inspiration is going to wax and wane, just like capacity and energy and all of that. And so we kind of have to have something that's structured to support us in that. But at the end of the day, like, you know, use your inspiration when it comes to you. Karina said, in your view, what should come first, capacity or the goal? Do you set sites based on what you can currently hold, or do you let the goal stretch your capacity? We kind of have it set up in terms of best case scenario, I guess you could say. So I guess we have it set up in terms of the goal. So the goal would be, I post 5 times a week. I send out a newsletter every week. I record the podcast every week. Like, our whole business framework and systems are set up for best case scenario goals. And then everything else, like if I don't meet that, if my capacity wasn't that this week, we can move around that. It's sort of like how I was saying, like I'll have a thing that was like post reel today, and if I don't, I just hit delete. I think that for some people that could feel like demotivating or something to have it set up for best case scenario and not always meet that. But for me, it feels like the best case scenario lives in my business, and I can always like step into that, and I like that. And if I have to not, then it's easier to back down off that instead of being like, wait, I did an extra thing this week. Wait, can you throw this out there? Wait, like we're always prepared for best case scenario. And then if I don't meet it, I don't meet it. And again, some of it's just a mindset thing of like not making yourself wrong for that. And not letting it mean too much. Like basically recognizing, I've talked with some of my clients about this all the time too. It's like, it's almost like recognizing if you have a really, 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 really big goal, you have to be okay with the disappointment of not hitting that goal sometimes. Like that's how you grow. That's how you stretch. Same thing here. If I have this goal of being like massively consistent with my content and being out there all the time and like I have to be okay that a lot of times I'm not going to meet that. And I don't like, that doesn't have to be a problem unless I make it one. So anyway, I think that that helps, is like we are structurally set up for best case scenario. Lacey said, totally, I do both baseline and extra things I feel like sharing. Yeah, I really feel like there's a gift in that. It's like, hey, the business moves with you. So if you feel like more, it's there. If you don't, that's okay. But you still have this like protective mechanism. Like, I'm not going to like disappear for 5 weeks and like not show up. Um, Laura said, how do you see this work for your clients who are earlier in building? I also work in this type of flexible boundary system, life, health, family. It works well in my more established business, but I'm not sure if it's working as well, especially lately as far as getting business traction in my newer business. Yeah, I think that's totally fair. I said that at the beginning, like there was a time where I was not this flexible with myself. Um, I think it really depends on what your goal is. Meaning like, say it's a newer business and you're like, I really, 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 really like need leads and I need to grow a certain amount in a certain amount of time. Like, then really what you need to figure out. Okay, let me work backwards on this. So for me, Laura, my kind of like non-negotiables are my client calls. I don't have a lot of, or I don't give myself a ton of flexibility there. Like I'm not regularly canceling on clients or moving calls or whatever. I mean, obviously I can if I'm ill or need to do something, but that does not have the same level of flexibility as what I'm talking about here. And so I exercise my flexibility in the content, systems, like marketing kind of arena. If it was flipped where you're like, I don't have that many clients there yet, where I would be more rigid would be on like growth. Like, okay, I actually do need to be posting X times a week. And then everything else needs to flex around that. Um, so I think we all have different areas. We can kind of like exercise our flexibility and our adaptability. Again, like it can do this, but like my client capacity pretty much always does this. Do you know what I mean? Then the marketing moves around that. Um, so I think it just depends on what stage you are at your business, where you want to have that flexibility. But there are these certain things in your business that are going to be more static and more rigid. For me, it's client calls. For someone else that's maybe earlier on, it's obviously they don't have those calls yet. So it's maybe like how consistently they need to be showing up. But I do think like you can pick where you want to flex that. Um, Seema said, I struggled with so much for a long time. I wanted to love batching, but I couldn't give up on running with inspiration. So I create backups for when inspiration is missing. This feels more like me. Exactly. I really feel like there's magic in that in almost all areas. Um, I also feel like something I've noticed that has shifted a lot is people actually want less, not more. In many ways lately. Like, I think if you're sending, I'm just making this up. This is not a hard and fast thing, by the way. But like, if I was sending 5 emails to my list a week, I actually don't think they would be happy about that. I think they would be like, oh my God, it's so much, like, especially for my ideal client. She's busy. She's doing her thing. She's like out there getting it done. She would just stop reading my emails at a certain point because it would be like so much. And so I think there is something that's also helpful too about figuring out like where is that line for you and your audience where like they're still quite engaged in reading it and there's not a drop off of like I just can't anymore. Like I love Lacey, but like I cannot be inundated with all of this or whatever. And so what I have personally found is like the more I don't make it mean a lot, like, oh my God, but I have to be so consistent. I have to send an email every week, no matter what. Da, da. Like, actually, it sometimes performs better. Like, if I haven't sent an email for a week and then I do, people are a little more engaged and curious. If I haven't, sometimes when I notice like my fluctuation and like, oh, I haven't posted and I didn't post very much last week. This week I posted a lot. I'm like, oh wow, I really see that like upward swing. And again, I'm not saying that's true with every audience, but with mine, what has been helpful for me uh, is noticing where it seems to matter when I show up and where it seems to not. Like I know that the podcast really matters for consistency because people do go like every Wednesday. I know that comes out. I'm waiting for it. If we've ever like missed posting it or something, somebody's like, oh my gosh, where's the podcast? Like I'm like, that matters. I've never had somebody be like, where was the newsletter this week? Like literally fucking ever. Okay. If you have, good for you. Apparently mine do not create that circumstance. But like I just choose what feels like the right place to flex based on what I know people care about and what gets us the most results. And where I can be like, actually, sometimes when I don't show up there as much, it does more for me. It's kind of like just testing that out. And I think seeing where that's true with your audience. Christina says this, we all have different areas. I built a huge audience. I know how to reach them. Posting every day doesn't move the needle anymore unless I'm in a launch stories 5 days a week because they make sales. Love your point about aligning to goals. Exactly. Like we all have areas that we can be flexible in if we let ourselves, and we all have areas we need to be a little more rigid in. And if we can prioritize that, that's where it's good. Where we often struggle is that all of us high achievers, high performers think that everything matters. Like high, we're like, oh my gosh, like, but one time I got a client because I posted 5 stories that week, and if I don't, like, it gets so intense, right? But what Christina is saying is like, at one point she did have to really like, grow her huge audience by posting really consistently. Now that matters less. Like we have to be willing to adapt and not be so fucking rigid of like, wait, well, I grew this by posting this much. And if I don't, then oh my God, like you have to look at the data. You cannot put back yourself into a corner like that because it's crazy making. And equally, you can't be the opposite way where nothing matters, where nothing gets that level of attention. Like I couldn't be like, oh, I'm not flexible with my clients too. If Kenny's traveling, I'm like more likely to cancel on them. And if he's not, blah, blah, blah. Like that is not a place for that. And I think that like holding this both and is really hard when we're typically kind of programmed one way or the other. But I really do feel like it's what creates long-term happiness and success in your business. Because if you're always operating in one of these bubbles where like nothing really gets that level of prioritization or everything does, like you almost can't grow that way. You're always going to hit a cap on both. I've learned that so much over the years, like what Christina's saying, that guilt is for real. Like I used to feel fucking guilty for this shit. Like I used to be like, oh my God, but I didn't get out a newsletter this week. I'm like when I did not go out, week before last week, I don't know, 2 weeks. I literally don't care. Like at this point, I'm like, it is fucking fine. But was not always true at all. Green is that I feel seen. Yes, that was not always true. I remember one time I think I've told this story before, but like this is how this crazy little thing up here worked for a while. I remember one time like posting my Facebook group early on in my business and being like, I'm not gonna be around in here for the weekend. So if like anybody needs anything, like in my free Facebook group, like I felt like I couldn't even take a weekend and not post the like post your Saturday promo here or whatever. And now I'm like, does not matter. And again, part of that is the stage I'm at in business for sure. So take that for what it's worth. But part of it is I just am so much more clear now on what moves the needle, what makes the difference, what doesn't. And I really, really, really put my energy to those things. So again, podcast is that for me. I think some level of like posts, whether that's reel or carousel, is very much that for me. I feel very lucky that you guys are engaged with me on there and we chat. I think at least showing my face in stories once a week is really big for me. Obviously, again, ideally more, but I really try to be like that always happens once a week. And the rest, it just expands and contracts. It really does. Um, there are seasons where I nail it every single week, and this last month, I would say I probably not nailed it more than I have. And that's okay. Also, it depends on like what else you have going on. Like when I was doing the Unstoppable Growth Masterclass, like I also did less in terms of newsletters, that kind of thing. So again, it's like, how can you have that flexibility of like, I've been in my business enough that I know what really matters, and I'm letting myself let go of the rest, because if I don't, I'm always going to hit a cap, or I'm going to feel like I can't have this business, Like if I was really going off of I have to hit this every week, and if I don't, there's a problem. I would be like, well, Kenny can't travel this much and me have this business. That just can't work. Like I would just send myself into such a spiral that's not real, that's not true. And I would be solving for the exact wrong problem. So I think that's really big. Lacey said I lean toward everything for sure. I mean, we get you, trust me. Nikki said the takeaway for me here is that this is the vision. Like the reason you can do that is because you've consistently shared so much valuable content over the years that you've built the ability to command attention anytime you share it. I think that's true, Nikki, and I really appreciate that. And I also do think things have shifted in the online space quite a bit too. In terms of like wanting more really great content versus a huge amount of it and stuff. So I think like both have kind of like worked in my favor. But I do think that's true. Like you 100% earn the ability to be this flexible by having the right team and the right setup and a team that you've built trust with, because I think this is a big thing. My team knows that I will show up and get done what I have to get done. And that if I don't get something done, it's because it's okay if I didn't get it done. And they have to trust me in that. Like we have to have that mutual trust there that that's not going to come back and get pointed at them, that that's not going to bite them in the ass, that I'm not tanking our business by not doing that, right? Like there is mutual trust that like, if I say it's okay that I didn't post, X times this week, it's fucking okay. Or if I say like, hey, we have to get this done for tomorrow. I just had this idea and it has to go out tomorrow. Like my April Fool's thing was an example. I did this funny satirical April Fool's thing and I thought about it like the day before. Like, so I said to them, like, this needs to happen for tomorrow. Let's make it happen. They trust my judgment on that as they should, because I'm the CEO, but they've also seen over time that my judgment tends to be right. So I think that's helpful too, is like you build up these things that make it all easier. It's easier to pivot when you have a team that can pivot with you. It's easier to pivot when you have a team that trusts your pivot and that doesn't think you're just causing chaos to cause chaos. Like all of those things matter. Yeah, I didn't even see your comment, Nikki, but you just nailed it. It's maybe not that we need more content, we just need more trust and in ourselves. Exactly, in ourselves, in our team, with our audience, right? I love that main character energy. Exactly. And I really do think that that makes a difference. And so, uh, yeah, that's just something that I feel like has been really helpful for me. And I try to do this in terms of everything. So I used to be really rigid with myself about looking at money in my business every Friday. Like I wanted like a money date with myself. And I love the idea of a money date. And I really like doing that. But like sometimes I do it and sometimes I don't. But more often than not, I do it and that's enough. Um, and again, it's like, because I trust myself. I trust that if I miss the last 2 Fridays, I'm going to do it the next one. I trust that if I don't do it the next one, then I'll do it on a Monday. Like I have really built that trust in myself over time in the business that I am not going to let what's that saying about like not letting the balls that are glass break? If you're juggling a bunch of balls, you don't let the glass ones drop. Like I trust myself enough in my business that I'm not going to let the glass ones drop. And so everything else can drop, everything else can move around, like everything else can stay up in the air longer if it has to. Um, and I think this is a big one. I am always willing to take the consequence if it doesn't. So here's an example. Taylor, if you're listening, love you. I have something coming up in the fall. We've had to, be making some plans for it, whatever. I had a decision to sit with. I probably took a little bit longer on it than I should have. End of the day, if I can't get something that I want because of that, I'm happy to take that responsibility on. Like, I'm happy to sit with that consequence. If I'm not, I won't fucking wait. Does that make sense? Like, I think there's really something where like I not only trust myself to like not let the wrong balls drop, but I really trust myself that even if I did, I can handle the consequences of that. And so same thing with social. Like if all of a sudden I wasn't posting that much and I was seeing that consequences of that were pretty extreme, like I was like, wow, like we're losing a ton of people. We're not seeing our waitlist signups happen. We're getting way less engagement. I trust that I would be like, okay, that consequence is on me. I've been really fucking inconsistent and I can fix that. And I really feel like that's the linchpin here. It's, can you get to a place where you know that you won't let the wrong things fall because you're looking at the data, because you're paying attention, because you know what actually matters, and that even if something fell, you could handle that. Like that consequence would be on you. You wouldn't blame anyone else. There wouldn't be like someone on your team that now was like, oh my God, like, why is she pointing the finger at us? She didn't show up and do that. Da, da, da. Like, you have to have that trust with yourself, with your team. And that's how you do this. That's how you go, okay, sometimes it's this, sometimes it's that. And it all just depends. I think is like the most important thing. So like, again, content, it's really flexible for me right now. My money dates with myself, really flexible for me right now. My newsletter, super flexible for me right now. Another one that I wanted to mention is even like my team meeting, like Taylor, my OBM, and I meet every week. And when I got diagnosed with POTS, they were like, you have to be working out more than you are. So I had to like move around my schedule and I had to be like, hey, Taylor, like I need to call you on the way home from Pilates now. It's not going to be on Zoom. Um, blah, blah, blah. And like, even that is something that a past version of me might not have given myself. Like, oh my God, I don't want my team to think they're not important or that I'm not really engaged with them or that, da, da, da. And I'm like, listen, I am juggling many a ball. My health is not a glass ball that I'm about to break because it is like the engine for everything in my entire life. So like if that has to happen, that has to happen. And like that is so freeing, I think, where sometimes it feels crunchy for me. Anyway, it feels crunchy to take up that much space. Like, well, I have a Pilates class, so I'm gonna have to call you instead of me. Like, there is a part of me that like judges that in myself still a little bit. Like, bitch, get your ass together, get on a Zoom call, make that work. Da, da. And then there's this other part of me that's like, that's not what I want to do anymore. Like, Taylor doesn't care. Like, and if she did, she would say, she would be like, hey, that feels weird. Can we do this? And I have to like trust her to name that for me if it's weird. But I also have to be like, I can be flexible, like, and I have to be creative about that flexibility. Sometimes that means, can I take that call on the way home? Sometimes it means, um, hey, this didn't go out this week. No big deal. But I think that that's really important. And I also think you kind of have to bring the energy of it's no big deal. Like if I was like, oh my God, and our newsletter didn't go out this week and it's such a thing, da, 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 I guarantee my team would get all worked up and then they would be putting pressure on me to get the newsletter. They'd be like, oh, but like last week it didn't, and that was really upsetting to you. And so blah, blah, blah. And it becomes this like really icky cycle that you feel like you can't get out of. And then you're like, wait, now I feel all this pressure to do it. You have to be chill. Like our newsletter didn't go out last week. It's totally okay. Oh, okay. Can I just call you on my way home? Is that cool? Like when you bring that level of like calm to it and you're like, hey, our rhythms are going to change sometimes. They're going to be flexible around what balls can't drop. It's so easy to do it. But again, it doesn't mean it doesn't feel crunchy, but like there's almost always a solution. Like if you would have asked me, um, pre them being like, hey, you have to work out like almost every day, I would have been like, oh, I can't work out almost every day. I have a fucking 3-year-old. I have a husband that travels all the time. Somehow it's working because that ball became more important. Do you know what I mean? Like that ball was rubber. The workout ball was a rubber ball until 3 weeks ago or however long ago that was, 2 weeks ago. Now it's a glass ball and it just like changes. Um, yes, Christina said that was huge for me in April, trusting myself to make the trade-offs I needed to make to have the future vision I want. It's uncomfortable to surrender to that trust through shifts, but I know it's necessary for my next level. That is exactly it. And Christina's IG is so good. Christina, is there any way? I don't know what you're doing right now. If you can drop the link, that would be lovely. But if not, I will circle back after I'm off and do it. Laura said a number of my clients have chronic health issues, as do I, and it does change the way you live and work. Health is so important. Love this. Yeah, like then you're just like, that's my glass ball, right? Like everything moves around that. Everything circles around that. And I think that that's what people find really difficult in business sometimes is they don't want to acknowledge that there are different balls. You know what I mean? It's like either everything's important or nothing's important, back to what we were talking about before. And that's not ever going to be how it works. It's like what Christina was saying, like next level shit almost always looks like flexibility, adaptability, changing, being willing to go, this works now and it didn't work then, this doesn't work, or this didn't work then and it does work now. Like you have to be willing to do that. Even like, I mean, this is a whole other conversation, but even in like what I've seen with like the online space lately, oh, Christina put it, it's Christina.social. But even what I've seen happen in the online space lately is like when people won't just go, things have changed. Let me change my priorities. Let me change my timeline. Like you guys, I went through probably, I don't know, years, at least 3 years in my business where I created almost no content except for the podcast because I just repurposed old content. Well, guess what? That was a rubber ball then. I didn't give a shit. Like it worked. Now, content's not like that anymore. God, I wish. Miss it. Loved it. But at the end of the day, it's not how it works anymore. And so I have to like rework my priorities to make that a new priority. And I think we're always doing that, especially if we're in business as moms, especially if, we're in these seasons of life where things change, especially if we have chronic health stuff, like Laura was saying, et cetera. Like we have to be willing to go, if things have changed, how do I change? And that looks like rhythms, rituals, stuff like that of like, hey, this matters, but it can matter in different ways, or we can recreate how it matters, like the same, like the team meeting. Hey, this really matters that we talk every week, but right now it looks like while I'm driving home instead of on a Zoom chat. That has to be okay for a season. And then that's probably going to change in the future. And all of it is fine if you make it fine, if you make it right, you know? Lindsay said, I find this has helped me in motherhood too, being much more flexible around the things that can be flexible. I feel like I'm enjoying my kids more and I find I have more capacity for more things I want to do. Yes, exactly. Like, I really feel like for so many of us, that high performer, high achiever energy, it's like we just find ourselves in such rigid containers of like what's right and what's wrong. And we get really into black and white thinking. And for almost all of us, our next level looks like living in the gray area. It looks being like, this is the priority now and it's not tomorrow, or this is the trade off I'm willing to make right now to get more of what I want tomorrow, or whatever. Um, and that is what my like stuff looks like right now, is being like, what is most important? Okay. Right now it's like health stuff. It was the master class when I was running it. Then it, is going to shift to this thing I'm doing later in the year. Like it all is going to fluctuate and it all gets different amount of attention at any given time. And I really think that trick to all of this, aside from like the obvious piece of trusting yourself, is truly, truly, uh, not making yourself wrong for that. Like every single time you go, oh, I should have gotten that out. I should have done more. I should have. You're ruining the trust for the next time. You're going, oh my God, I'm a bad CEO. I can't be trusted. What I like really say to myself all the time, and I'm not even just saying this in like a light way, like I literally say this out loud to myself because I'm trying to wire this in, is I'll go, I am so proud of myself for being so clear on what my priorities are. I'm so fucking proud of myself that I'm so good at practicing my own discernment that I knew what mattered this week and what didn't. So proud of myself for not getting that newsletter out this week, because actually it was so much more important to me that I got that photo shoot. Like that's the kind of like, again, take it for what it's worth. If you want to do it, do it. If you don't, it's totally fine. Seems kind of crazy, but I vocalize that to myself when I need to. Because I'm never going to be in a position where I'm like, I should have gotten that done. Like, I'm not talking to myself like that, because I know where that leads. I know that means I think I'm a bad CEO. I know that means I trust myself to do it less. I know that means I start building more rigid systems because I think I need all of this accountability and I'm like this wild animal that can't be controlled, when I'm like, fuck yes, Lace. Way to get to Pilates this morning and know what balls can and can't drop. I'm so proud of you. I literally said that to myself in the car this morning. Like, that is what matters. And we have to reinforce that over and over and over in these schedules, again, especially when they're changing all the time, especially when they're fluctuating. Like, you're never going to be able to go every week, like, oh my God, I checked every box this week. Amazing. Yay. Now I get my gold star. Like, most of us don't have lives that look like that. And so you have to find other ways to make yourself right and other ways to give yourself credit. And for me, it looks like being so proud of how I adapt, being so proud of knowing what's important, being so proud of the decisions I've made. And that's what makes it all easy, because every week looks different. It literally does. Nikki said, would you still recommend using Content Planning Party as a template for creating content? What I would say is, I think like knowing your main things that you want to talk about and having a way to ideate that out is still really helpful. I still very much think in terms of like, what are my main focus areas? What are subtopics under that? However, I think what's so different, obviously you should follow Christina for this because she's way better at this than I am, but I think what's so different is, how do I want to say it? Like, I don't go as rigidly as I used to there either, where I used to be like, well, this week I'm talking about mindset, next week I'm talking about sales, and this week I'm talking about that. Like, I'm all over the place because I'm going off of like what's trending, or like what hook I think is really good, or what audio I just found, or like what conversation I just had, or like I'm trying to be a lot more like of the moment in terms of what's happening versus in terms of like forcing my plan on it. And so I think having something where you can pull from like, hey, do I regularly talk about these topics that are really important? Am I bringing my audience along with me, et cetera, is really meaningful. But I think that idea of like where I used to be like, well, I talk about one topic for a full week, no matter what, doesn't work anymore, at least in the way that I think really grows things. So that I've changed up quite a bit. Like I still use the framework or the foundation for like, who am I? What am I about? What's my message? Do I know these like subtopics under that? Am I going there? Am I making sure to talk about those things, but not in the bigger, broader sense of like, you know, Tuesday I talk about this and Wednesday I talk about this. Like it just doesn't work like that for me anymore. And I don't think, honestly, I stopped selling that a long time ago because I just don't think that that's helpful in the way that it used to be honest. And I think it's really, like, really helpful to let go of some of that again. Foundationally, I think it's helpful. In terms of application, no, it's not what I do anymore. Um, yes, permission giving, good. Alyssa said always here for talking about rhythms. Yes. Um, Let me think if there was anything else I wanted to say. Mm. Oh, there's one more thing I want to say. Okay, so this one might seem very obvious, but this was not actually all that obvious to me at the beginning of my business. You know, um, I will say no now quite often to something that would be a nice to do in my business if it means I get to do something for me when I feel like I need it. So again, mom to a 3-year-old. We have a nanny. My husband travels a lot. There are very specific windows in which I have time where I don't have to take care of a small human. And so what I do a lot now is if I'm like, oof, it's been a big week, I'm kind of feeling it. Like I will say, I will take almost anything off my plate if it means I get to go take a bubble bath in the middle of the day, if it means I get to breathe for 30 minutes while I like read my book or something like that. And that was a really hard pill for me to swallow for a long time. I used to think, well, if I just get all this done, then I'll feel better. And I've never actually found that to happen. I mean, occasionally, sometimes, right? When you're like, oh, okay, like all the important things are done, whew, breathe. Um, there's there is something to that. Like again, when you know the glass balls aren't dropping. But I have never found that getting all of the rubber balls done um, is that helpful to me if it's taking away from my like ability to self-soothe, regulate, breathe, have space, etc. So I personally take a lot of that during the day. This is what I didn't talk about at all. Shoot. Sorry. I meant to. I'll do it quick. My schedule is like inverted in a sense now that it never was. Like I take a lot of time during the day to myself when I can. Like if I have a break between calls or whatever, I'm more likely to go to a Pilates class or take a bath or read my book or go for a walk or whatever than I am to do work in that moment. And I'm more likely to do work at night after my son has gone to bed. That does not work for some people. So do not feel like that has to work for you. But like it is so much easier for me because you know what I can't do after my son goes to bed, especially if my husband's traveling? Go to Pilates. I guess I can take a bath then, like certainly I could, but I don't always find myself wanting to then, if that makes sense, because like I I'm like wanting to get to bed and relax and stuff like that. So what else can't I do? Like I can't do like I can't go get my nails done then. I read a lot at night, but even like the reading thing, like it makes me more sleepy at night, blah, blah. Right. You get my point. Like all of that feels better for me personally when it's more inverted. When like in the middle of the day, I can go take a bubble bath. In the middle of the day, I can stop and read on my Kindle and sit outside. Like that really just does a lot for me. I don't even really, I mean, you just saw I'm like struggling with a reason why it doesn't feel as good at night for some reason. But like for me, what I have found, and trust me, I've tried it a lot of different ways. Like whenever my husband would be like, oh, well, could you go to like a class at like this time? I'm like, no, I hate working out at night. I don't want to do that. It feels bad. Or like, oh, do you want to like do this after he goes to bed? No, like I like sitting with my little computer, working, while I'm watching some TV. And like that just feels better to me. Where during the day, being like, oh, I can run there, I can go get, like I almost always on Mondays take myself out to lunch. Um, that feels more attractive to me and how my body and schedule work than this. So anyway, like I used to feel weird then. Like I'd be like, oh my gosh, but if a client sees me like reviewing their stuff at like 9 p.m., what are they going to think? And I'm like, I don't give a fuck now. Like if they want to ask me about my schedule, they can absolutely ask me about my schedule. Like I'm happy to be an open book about that, but like I don't owe it to anybody to like rework my schedule so they think I look like a good business owner or something. Yes, when you feel fed and overflowing, it helps with the depth of presence for clients. 1000%. Oh, yay. I love that it's freeing, Allison. Because it's the ultimate flex to be able to take a bath at 2 p.m. Literally, there's nothing better in my life. Like a bubble bath at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday, or like taking myself out to lunch on a Monday or whatever is like it for me. And I don't know why it feels so good. I just know that it does. And so I try to chase that. Um, and so that was one other thing I wanted to say. Like, it's okay if your rhythms look weird or you have to totally rework them. Like, I know a lot of people who are like, oh, I just get up really early in the morning before my kids. I'm like, I don't know. I could never. Maybe there will be a time in my life where I do, but like, that's not how my body or brain function right now. But like, you want me to look at your email sequence at 9:30? I got you all day. Like, I'm like, that it just, I don't know, it just feels better. Like, probably because I filled my cup during the day. Like, I love talking to clients. That really energizes me. Then I do a bunch of other shit for myself. And so by the time I like I hang with my son for like a large portion of the afternoon, like our nanny leaves at 3:30. So by the time like he's down and in bed at like 8:30 or whatever, I'm like, I feel good. Like I'm ready to go. I feel present. I feel great. I'm just gonna fucking watch a reality TV show anyway. Like might as well do it with my laptop and your email sequence. Um, it just that is what works for me. And so just permission to do whatever works for you. Like for me, I'm like, I'm getting hours and hours of time with my son during the day and getting to do things for myself without having to ask anybody or coordinate or whatever. And then at night, I'm like doing what I need to do. And like that just like, oh, feels so good in my body. Um, and I just stopped worrying about what it like looked like and everything got easier. So that was just like one more takeaway I wanted to give is like only you know what feels good in your day and your life. And you have to pick what that is and you have to run with that. For me, because my husband's schedule is so inflexible or so up in the air, like knowing that when our nanny's here I can do stuff for me is the nicest because I never feel like I have to be like, oh, but can you this and well, but this day he's gone, but like I'm like whatever, Mondays I take myself out to lunch and Mondays our nanny's always here, or you know what I mean, like it just like again, my life, my schedule, my thing. Yours might be the exact opposite, but I've just found these like little ways of like, oh, it feels so good when I don't have to like coordinate or ask about that. Oh, it feels so good when like I would just sit there and watch the valley anyway. And so I can do this thing right now and it feels like really juicy to me to do that. Like totally up to you. Like that's where I could create content. That's where um I like message my team, etc. Like it's just what works. So anyway, permission to do whatever works for you and for that to change all the time. That was not even close to how I ran my business before I had my child. And it is what it is now that I do. So like we all get to pick, we're all in different seasons, but that currently feels amazing to me. So hope that helps. Sorry, this got so long. I feel like I went off on many tangents, but thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. If you have questions about this, let me know. Happy to be an open book on this. And yeah, hopefully it's just some permission to be like, it's all allowed to be in flux and you're allowed to have it look however you want it to look and however feels good for you without too much justification beyond it feels good for you. And then you just have these few things where you're like, and these are what matter. And I always figure it out and I always make time for that. And that's how you trust yourself and that's how you grow. So thank you for being here. I'm so appreciative of you guys. Remember, if you made any comment, you're entered to win one of my products or a gift card. And just as always, thank you so much for being here. I won't be here next week because I'll be in New York for an event and a client VIP day. And then the next week I will be back. So I won't see you next week, but I'll see you the week after and love you guys and appreciate you so much. Bye.